Well, joining me now is former Sky political correspondent Peter Spencer. Peter, what better place to start? Who'd have thought that 4 years on from that seemingly unsurpassable, historic 80-seat whopping majority, here we are once again, the same ghosts of Brexit, the same groups, the same thorns in the side for the Conservative Party?
Who would have thought it indeed? And I was particularly struck when I read this morning a piece written in one of the papers by William Hague, who you might remember was the Conservative Party leader in 1997 when Tony Blair and the Labour Party swept to power and swept them off the Richter scale. And what he said in his piece was, look, you guys, just be careful what you wish for. You really don't get it. You're in government 1 minute, you're in the opposition the next, you go from hero to absolute zero. Do you really want to go there? If you do, you're all stark raving bonkers. That said, I mean, I was in Conservative Central Office, so-called, on that particular night, and it went from a bit of sort of jollity to graveyard humour to them all, frankly, wanting to put a pistol to their heads. And that is potentially the odds that we're looking at this time round. Now, it does have to be said two things. One, if they manage to squeak it, if the government manages to squeak it through anyway, then that will switch on from being a bullet to the head to slow and painful death, because the rows about this will go on and on and on for months. And the other point that I would make is that Rishi Sunak just simply didn't need to big this up to that extent in the first place. If it really goes against him, it has to be said this will be not so much a regicide as, frankly, a suicide.
And it's interesting, Peter, we've seen a similar dilemma on the other side of the channel. France, Emmanuel Macron faced a huge defeat because his immigration plan didn't satiate the political left, the liberal side of the spectrum, and didn't satiate the right wing of the country politically either. And it looks like we're heading down the same route. And if it gets voted through tonight, Peter, I think you're right, it'll be tinkered with, and both sides will want it tinkered with in different ways. The right will want it hardened, the left will want it softened, and never the twain shall meet.
Exactement, quelle horreur. I mean, this is the interesting thing about the Conservative Party currently, is it trades as a broad church, but I've made this line before, that it looks a little bit more like that temple in the Bible after Samson had a crack at it. I mean, it is the two sides are so wide apart that it's a bit of a cheat, really, to call themselves members of the same party. I mean, I have to say that one of the prime requisites for any Prime Minister is, apart from all the other things like, you know, being good at talking and stuff, is simply luck. Rishi Sunak has been monumentally unlucky in inheriting, when he became the party leader, not so much a fighting force as a loose confederation of warring tribes.
So do you think there's a little bit of karma in this if you dig deep enough? After all, a lot of people out there saw Boris Johnson as the saviour of the Conservative Party. Of course, as I said, 4 years today, 80-seat majority. Many people think Rishi sharpened the knives and did for Boris. And now here he is facing the same Brexit beasts.
Well, I mean, I think that the idea of Sunak playing Casca in Julius Caesar, the first to plunge the knife, I think that's a fair bit overstated in actual fact. I mean, to be fair. That said, there will be those, of course, who do make that point, and but I do come back to my point about Rishi Sunak's sunny uplands. I mean, I would be very surprised if either in May or later on in the year he does not find himself heading for the sunny uplands in Silicon Valley and out of Westminster gone completely. A bit like, it has to be said, David Cameron. The fact he's got a resurrection is one of these extraordinary things to behold, but then never let it be said that politics doesn't chuck up things that you really, really don't expect.
Yeah, Peter Spencer, we'll have to leave it there. Very entertaining, excellent French and a great bit of theatre thrown in. And the knives will certainly be sharpened for Rishi tonight in this crunch vote in a little over 2 hours. Of course, we'll have all of that here on GB News.